Hello everyone! Today we're going to take a look at the early access version of Book of Demons, also called Return to Games Book of Demons, because it is part of an effort by the devs by the name of Thing Trunk, which is a pretty great name, Thing Trunk, a trunk of things, presumably, to resurrect some old school PC style games, a multiple game effort by the name of Return to Games. And this is the first and currently only, for now, part of that effort called Book of Demons, which is a classic style action RPG with some very old school elements mixed in with some very cool new school stuff and a very interesting theme. So this is my character currently. He is a level 27 warrior, and well, I think we should really just jump into this one. I can't show you the other classes right now. There is a rogue and a mage, which I'm very excited for, but this is early access and they are not currently available. So what I can show you is the warrior. So we shall continue the adventures of Thrust McStabberson. Also, you can click the crows, which I highly recommend. And let us enter the town. So, the first thing you may notice is the art style is fantastic. It is this sort of papercraft or pop-up book style. More crows. And that is, that's exactly what it is. And the entire game looks like this. Not just the town screen, but the actual gameplay itself, all the art, everything looks like this pop-up book or papercraft style. The interface even is done this way, and it looks really good. They did an excellent job in actually bringing this style through. Even all of the enemies look this way, and it's pretty great. It looks excellent, and I'm actually kind of happy to see this art style because I've never really seen a game that looks exactly like this, and I hope they actually carry this through to the other games in their Return to Games series, which it seems like they may be doing because they're all books from what I can tell. But again, they're not out yet, except for this one, so it's just a guess, but that seems to be what they're doing. So here we are in the town, and in the town you can talk to various NPCs that do various things. They have bits of gossip, they can tell you about the world. The barmaid here can tell you about all kinds of things, and has the magical cauldron, which is something that I'll have to explain a bit later. We have a healer, we have the fortune teller that allows you to do things with your cards. This game, as you can probably tell here at the bottom, has a heavily card-based system and its character progression. And we have Deckard Cain here, also called the Sage, who allows you to identify cards, unlock more slots. As you can tell, I'm missing 2. You start with 3, and you unlock more with gold. And he also tells you about the enemies of the game, and absolutely despises the fortune teller here. I think they just need to hurry up and bang it out. So, as the warrior, I have access to all kinds of things, and you may be noticing all this down here. So, here's how the game actually works. It is heavily based on cards for loot, and these cards come in various kinds. And if I go to my inventory here, you shall see. So, you've got the artifact cards, which represent equipment. You have item cards, which represent your actual consumables, and spell cards, which are your abilities. And keep in mind, these are the cards for the warrior class, and I expect most of these will be different, especially the artifact and spell cards, for the other 2 classes. So you can equip as many as you can fit down here, basically, based on how many slots you have available, and make a build for yourself. This is very much like a deck building element of the game. You're trying to get synergies with the cards that you have, trying to come up with a good combination of abilities and a good mix of situationally useful cards, depending on what you may be going up against. So what I've currently got equipped is a bit of an assortment of things. You may notice I don't really have many abilities equipped except for one, and there's a reason for that. So your resources here, you have health, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's your health. And you also have mana, but you may notice that there's 2 colors of mana. So blue mana is what you normally start with, and you use it for casting spells or using your abilities. And you can only regen it with mana potions, or some abilities allow you to get mana back for various things, like say this Amulet of Mana, which gives you restoration. or using these mana fountains in dungeons and things like that. However, all of these artifact cards, which are quite powerful and oftentimes very necessary, they change your blue mana to green mana, which is sort of like locking it. It's very much like reserving mana in other RPGs, and green mana cannot be spent on abilities. So all these things, this little number here, tells you how much it basically reserves. So this changes 9 blue to green, this changes 8, and so on and so forth. And some of these, as you can see, like this Shadow Sword, it is a rare artifact, level 3, which is as high as they get, changes 15, which is quite a bit. So the build that you make may indeed get quite expensive. And as you can see, even like this dagger, for instance, at level 1, this is a level 1 rare, already takes 12. So you can imagine if I level it up is going to take even more. And you can quickly run out of mana if you're not careful. And of course you have to have enough blue mana to convert to green in order to actually equip what you want. So your build and your synergies all depend on your ability to actually equip them, which is one of the main reasons I don't have a lot of spells available to me right now. And also very much based on slots. I need a lot more gold to unlock the last 2 slots. But this is the build I'm currently going with. I have things like this Burning Axe, for instance, which tends to spark fire wherever I attack, but of course fire on the ground isn't good for me either, so I also have these boots, which allows me to ignore fire damage and walk right through it, so that I don't kill myself with my own axe, which is useful. Shadow Sword is awesome, allows me to attack multiple enemies at once, sort of like a cleave. I have this Legendary, which is a balance ring. Basically, this is kind of an anti-spider build right now, although I'm not actually fighting too many spiders anymore. This is a bit outdated, I may need to update it a bit. This allows me to get back some hearts from being hit. This is a big health regen. Basically, this is sort of a tanky fire damage based build that I'm working on right now. One thing I really like about these cards is as you upgrade them, their art actually changes. So you notice this health potion has golden wings on it. That's because it is level 3. But when it was level 1, it was just a basic red flask. And this Mighty Blow spell is also level 3. It started out as a kind of bronze fist, and it now is like this golden spiked fist. The card art actually changes as you upgrade things. And upgrading is done with these rune cards. So if I go to the fortune teller here and go to upgrade card, you will get various kinds of runes. There are sun, moon, life, death, and truth in the dungeons, and you can also fuse them together to create one of a higher tier. So 2 sun runes make 1 life, 2 moon make 1 death, and then 1 life and death make 1 truth, and so on and so forth. And you can then choose any card that you happen to have the correct combination and number of runes to upgrade, and then, you know, plop it up there, and then plop what you need, and then pay for it, and it will upgrade it to the next level and tell you what exactly is going to be increased or added by upgrading it, which is very important because it tends to heavily increase the power of the cards. So upgrading your cards is very important. So without further ado, let's actually get into it. And this is another very interesting feature of the game. So first of all, let's look at the excellent presentation style of the game. This is, whoops, a little too far up. This is the dungeon. And I've been through quite a bit of it so far, 2 bosses and a lot of levels, and if you go all the way to the bottom, you see the absolutely terrifying final boss, I'm sure. Yes. Just terrifying, really. So here I am in hell, naturally. And this is a very cool feature. This is called Flexiscope, TM. And what this allows you to do is actually cater your gameplay time to what you think you can do right now, which is a neat feature. So you can choose how long you want your particular game session this time to be, from a very small, short game session to a particularly large one. And this doesn't shorten the actual gameplay experience. You're still going to have to make it all the way through this entire track. However, you will need to, you know, do any number of these to actually make that progress. As you can see, it tells you how much progress towards the actual end of the game you're going to make, depending on how far you're going in this. It also tells you the average number of rewards and gold that you're likely going to find. So for the purposes of this video, let's do something, you know, not too huge. You can just choose whatever you want and then hit start. It will generate a dungeon for you, or multiple dungeons in fact, and off you go. You can also quit at any time. So it'll tell you what kind of enemies you're going to be facing, including maybe some that you've never met before, like this one. And you can go into it. So here we go. As I said, the style is very much preserved in the actual game, of the papercraft style. And here we go. So you're seeing how it actually works already, and it gets very hectic right from the beginning. So you're actually on this track. It's almost a classic adventure game style. You can't move everywhere, which feels a bit jarring at first, but it actually works. You can only move on the path. And enemies will approach you from every angle, and you've got to kill them. You got to kill them real good. Your character will auto-attack enemies in range, but you can actually click on them to attack them much faster, which is what you're meant to do. And I'm dropping lots of hearts because of that bloody armor artifact that I have equipped that allows me to regen some health that I take as damage. Now you're noticing a lot of enemies have these spell effects or ability effects going off above them. I can click and hold those to cancel them. That allows me to actively cancel or dispel enemy abilities, which is very important because I really don't want those going off. And also, while they are currently going off, enemies are immune to damage, so I want to cancel as many of those as possible. Enemies have these hearts above them, which of course represent their health, and they take a certain amount of damage. Now, I'm not super effective with this build as much as I would like to be against the enemies of hell oftentimes because they have flaming hearts, and I'm using a flaming weapon, so I am less effective than I could be. There is an icy weapon that I would like to have, but I currently haven't found that card yet, but I hopefully will soon. There we go, and I'll go ahead and use that to regen some health. And you just gotta make your way through these levels and kill the enemies, and there are a finite number of specific enemies in every level. And every enemy type has its own abilities, a specific amount of health, a specific type of health, and certain things that it will do. So that had poisonous hearts, which means that it explodes in a poison cloud when it's killed. This has golden hearts, which means that when it's hurt, it is immune to damage for a short period of time, so you have to slowly whittle it away, wait for that golden shield to go away before you can hurt it again, and then do it again. These are annoying archers with flaming hearts, so I gotta be careful, and they can do fire damage to me, and this is a boss, which lets me explain the boss mechanics. So, when a boss appears, you see that little red bar up to the top of the screen, which represents the boss's phases, and every boss has multiple phases. And the more phases a boss has, the more experience and loot they're worth when they're finally killed. Try and dispel these abilities. So every time you eliminate a boss's health gauge, it will move through another one of those phases, which will alter its attack patterns and things like that. So that is essentially its health gauge, whereas the health gauge above the actual boss is only the health gauge for its current phase. So right now, I'm just chewing through those burning hearts, gonna use my Mighty Blow ability to do a large portion of damage to it, expending some mana, dispel that ability so it doesn't throw fireballs at me, or bigger fireballs rather, try and dodge some of these attacks, and there's that phase done. I can't dispel this ability because it is, you saw that there's a little lock symbol on it, because bosses that are in their phase changing sort of new spell casting mode, those abilities cannot be dispelled or stopped. You've got to let them cast that. But now I can start wailing on them again. I'm gonna cast that some more times, and this is only a 2-phase boss, so this is a very short boss. Not worth too much, but still, a boss kill is a boss kill. You know, we're already in hell, so I don't think that's gonna do much. That Shadow Sword is so useful. Level 3 lets me attack 3 enemies at once, and it dropped some loot. And that is the Cauldron, something I will have to explain again. So the Cauldron is an interesting concept. Basically, every now and then there's a rune. Every now and then you'll find some loot that isn't cards or anything, and there are mystery items that go into the Cauldron. Also, every time you level up, which is this is your experience bar down here, it works exactly like you would think. You kill enemies and get experience. You will be able to choose either 1 health or 1 mana permanently. The one you do not choose will go into the Cauldron. You technically get both, but you only get the one you choose right now. The other one goes into the Cauldron. When you go back to town, you can pay the barmaid to access the Cauldron, and you get everything that's currently in it.
Nice.
Yeah. However, every time you access the Cauldron, ooh, and there's 1 permanent health and another prize for the Cauldron. Every time you access the Cauldron, the price of accessing it again will go up. So ideally, you're not constantly accessing it every single time you go back to town, because that would be inefficient and cost a lot of money every time. So right now, as you can see, I've actually accessed it very recently. There's no health or mana in it because I just did it, and there are only 2 pieces of loot in there. And the way the loot works is, as you can see, these are sort of like a bronze color. If you get 3 of one, they actually transform into the next tier up. So if I get 3 of those bronze-colored ones, they will actually transform into a silver-colored one, and the 3 silver ones will transform into a gold one, and so on and so forth. And this area is now cleared, so I can go out of here now. And on to the next area. So, even though you only get 1 of the level up stats on actually leveling up, oh, that enemy had a shield I had to click, well, you actually get both of them once you access the Cauldron for yourself, which is a different way to do things. It's just that you can't do that all the time, because it will end up costing you a lot of money if you choose to do it constantly. But, however, if you die, whatever is in the Cauldron, rewards-wise, is lost. I've never actually died, so I don't think you lose the health and mana that's in the Cauldron from leveling. I'm pretty sure that stays. But the rewards, the loot that's in the Cauldron, that you also get from accessing it, you lose. So you gotta be careful about that. I mistimed my ability here. Yeah, okay. So, I think you're probably getting the idea. One thing I absolutely love about this game is its presentation. This art style is fantastic, and also, it's got a very good sense of humor, and I love the fact that just about every status effect has a little mini-game attached to it. So, as you noticed there, I had to catch stars. When you get stunned, there are these stars that appear, and you've got to catch them with your mouse to decrease the duration of the stun. Normally there are 5 stars to catch, but the balance ring makes it to where I only have to catch 2. So that I can be stunned for a lot less time. Ooh, that's a large boss health gauge. Okay, this is gonna take a bit longer. Oh god. Okay, that's not good. I'm stuck. And here's another one. When you're poisoned, your health gauge turns green and ticks away as you would expect for poison. However, that little gargoyle that is perched on your health gauge, occasionally its mouth will open when you're poisoned, and if you're able to click your health gauge during that time, it will end the poison duration, allowing you to shorten it drastically. Another one is sometimes when you're stunned, your cards, some of them will actually get like dislocated, and you'll have to click them in order to reattach them. So that basically when they're knocked loose like that, they won't work, and you have to reattach them, which is kind of neat. And there are some others as well. So I do like the fact that pretty much every single status effect has like a mini game attached to it in order to sort of decrease its effect on you. That's kind of cool. And also, a lot of enemies have certain effects to them. Like, you notice that different types of hearts have different effects, like I've explained. There are frozen hearts, and poison hearts, and stone hearts, and golden hearts. And there are also enemies, as you've noticed now, with shields. You have to actually click on the shield to break it before you're actually able to deal damage to their hearts, like so. Like that. And there are different grades of shield that may take longer to break, and there are also magic shields that regenerate after a short period of time that you have to continuously find and break to keep damaging said enemy. Alright, stunned the boss. Actually, I really should be killing this thing because it's being a giant pain. That's actually a magic shield right there. I should be able to get him. There we go. And enemies can drop all kinds of things on the battlefield as well to make your job more difficult. Enemies, stone blocks, ice pillars, spider webs, fire, all kinds of stuff like that. It's a fairly interactive game in terms of actually being a sort of interactive adventure, I guess you could say, because it's clearly going for that old school, almost Diablo 1 feel. Alright, let me see if I can... There we go. Sometimes it's nice to do a large amount of damage at once to those with golden hearts. Ow, I'm stuck. And the game has a very much old school PC adventure game feel, which is clearly what they're going for. And it has this excellent presentation style that is very clearly built on this idea of returning to an older school style of game design. And they're doing it fairly well while marrying it with newer school mechanics like CCG mechanics, card collection. And I appreciate it. The combat, while simplistic, is enjoyable due to how many viable builds there are and how enjoyable... I'm stuck in a corner right now, so I'm not showing it off very well, but that's just how the bosses work. Sometimes they can stick you in a corner, unfortunately. But due to the just sheer variety in builds that you can make with all the various artifacts and abilities and weapons... Well, I say weapons. There are technically weapons like this burning axe that you can get to make yourself more powerful or alter the way that you fight. I really like what they've done in terms of deliberately creating this marriage of what feels like deck building mechanics, but in an action RPG, which isn't something that's familiar really to a lot of people because those two aren't usually done together. And this game actually manages to do it very well. Deck building is enjoyable, I think, to a lot of us. Trying to get those really good synergies, trying to get those cool effects that work together in a surprisingly potent way is really fun. And combining that feeling with a real-time action RPG is a pretty heady mixture that actually feels really good. There's a lot of stuff going on screen at a given time. There can be a lot of things to click because of all the various status effect minigames, all the types of enemy interactions, the shields, the dispelling abilities, the different types of hearts, the different movements that you may have to make to avoid things like poison novas or effects on the ground, or clicking enemy shields, or dispelling certain types of abilities, things like that. There's actually quite a bit going on at any given time, which adds to the gameplay variety, which is nice. So I feel that Thing Chunk has created a fairly compelling experience here, and it's definitely made me apt to play more of it. It's kept me going, and it's kept me wondering what kind of cool cards I could possibly get next, how I could alter my build further to create something even more enjoyable, what kind of enemies I'll be going up against next that would require me to change my build around, and what other kinds of synergies and different sort of things working together I could make to be effective in the higher levels against other types of enemies and things like that. Because now I'm going against some pretty tough demons and things, and a lot of my previous strategies are significantly less effective because they were built for spiders and smaller swarming enemies and zombies and things like that. And now, against these larger demons, they're not working as well. So I'm going to have to change some stuff up. So overall, I think it's a very enjoyable experience, and the price is right on this one, I feel. It is available right now in early access, of course, for $20. $20 for this. Not bad. There is already quite a bit here, and they're working pretty diligently on fixing it up for a more polished release. They've already added quite a bit to it in terms of functionality, things like making this little button here, for instance, clickable when you clear the level so you don't have to walk all the way to the exit. They have this nice little feedback window that lets you type in real-time feedback. They're very clearly taking their early access period seriously. things like adding WASD movement. Originally it was only click to move, which works, but I prefer combining WASD with the mouse for a more smooth feeling movement and attacking kind of combination experience. I like that a lot more. Adding other things, like changing the way that enemy summoning works to put a sort of hard cap on it to make sure that enemies can't just bum rush the crap out of you as soon as you begin a level with just an unlimited number of summons and things like that. There's a lot here that they've already polished up, and it's only been a couple of weeks since the early access launch, and there's already a lot more to go. And also this flexi-scope system is actually pretty cool. So yeah. This is the current state of Book of Demons, a highly interesting old-school action RPG with an absolutely fantastic art and presentation style, a good sense of humor, and very cool card collection mechanics. I will be bringing you more on this when they add in the Mage class, because I'm very excited to play the Mage and get some experience with it and get a bunch of cards with it and show you how that works. So once the Mage is in and I get some gameplay time with it and I'm able to actually play with it and show you that, I absolutely will make another video to show you the state of the game at that point. For right now, I will link you in the description below to the early access page for Book of Demons by Think Drunk. 20 bucks, give it a shot if you want. It is already polished enough and with enough content for probably at least 10 or 12 hours of a solid playthrough. And that is worth it, in my opinion, for the price, for a good, solid, card-based action RPG with a pretty sweet pop-up book or papercraft art style. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like it. If you did not, feel free to dislike it and tell me why. I'll see you guys next time.